Why is US provoking China? Why is the government of Taiwan going along with it? What are the objectives? Let's listen to Brian and Danny have a discussion about it.
Where it seems like where we always have to start is the escalations again around Taiwan. So you had the Democratic Progressive Party, the DPP candidate, Lai Ching-te. He came to the United States the week of August 12th. He made 2 stopovers, I believe, in San Francisco, New York. There was a lot of tensions. There were protests against. There were, of course, protests for, because of the nature of the U.S.'s role in all of this. And you now have the Eastern Command of the People's Liberation Army conducting military drills, which is also pretty predictable given how in past so-called official visits that the United States arranged, whether it was Kevin McCarthy in California meeting with Tsai Ing-wen, whether it was Nancy Pelosi all the way back in August 2022 meeting with Tsai Ing-wen in Taiwan, there are military drills occurring, and China is saying this is a stern warning to those who are interfering in the affairs of Taiwan. Now, you've also talked about the issue of the latest arms package that the U.S. has sent to Taiwan. And I'm wondering if you could just maybe put together this story, this narrative, like what is going on now. And despite all of these so-called diplomatic visits that the U.S. has engaged in the last several months, it seems like things are going to be quite contentious if Biden and Xi Jinping end up meeting in October, as is at least tentatively planned. So I'll kick it to you now.
Anything the United States says in any meeting with China is meaningless. We've watched this play out for years and years now. It doesn't even matter who's in the White House. They say one thing, they do another. You look at the U.S. State Department's official website, U.S. and Taiwan relations, where they talk about the one China policy, recognizing there is only one China. Taiwan is part of it. There's only one legitimate governance, the People's Republic of China. We do not support Taiwan independence. We do not have an embassy in Taiwan because it's not a country. They're admitting all of this out of one side of their mouth. Out of the other side, they're saying we're going to continue arming Taiwan, and we're going to continue supporting political parties that are in pursuit of separatism from the rest of China. And what we're watching is a repeat of the same process the U.S. just carried out in Ukraine, where you had Ukraine, which was previously part of the Soviet Union, and before that, the Russian Empire. We see them cultivating anti-Russian segments of the population in Ukraine, turning them against their own culture, their own language, their own history, and building up a political party that will irrationally oppose anything Russian, even if it means cutting off themselves economically, politically, and plunging themselves into a military conflict. The exact same thing is now happening in Taiwan. And a lot of people try to make, I think, false comparisons between, say, Crimea and Taiwan. And they say, if Crimea can join the Russian Federation, why can't Taiwan pursue independence? And I always point out that we see the United States interfering in Taiwan. This project pushing towards separatism, this is an American project, a project born in Washington and on Wall Street, is part of maintaining and expanding American hegemony around the globe, and more specifically primacy in Asia, and especially over China. It's not a process that benefits the actual people living on Taiwan. And as I pointed out many times before, these US government and arms industry funded think tanks do war games where they say, yes, Taiwan would definitely win in any armed conflict with China as long as we step in and help out. Of course, all infrastructure and industry would be scoured off the surface of Taiwan, but they would keep their political autonomy. And when they say political autonomy, when you really think about that, they don't have any political autonomy. They're part of China, and if they were to separate from China, they would be entirely dependent on the United States economically, militarily and politically. The DPP itself is a creation of Washington through the National Endowment for Democracy, years and years and years of pumping money into the local Taiwan political landscape, into media, into education. It is entirely artificial, and anything that comes out of it will be completely dependent on the United States. So it is by no means genuine independence. It is simply U.S.-sponsored separatism to create an unsinkable aircraft carrier for the United States right off the coast of mainland China. That is what this is all about. Now, you mentioned the arms package that the U.S. put together. They're actually using the same presidential drawdown authority that the U.S. is using for Ukraine, where they're taking existing weapons in U.S. stockpiles and sending them to Ukraine. They're now doing this for Taiwan, and they're sending things like, in some instances, there's the Patriot air defense system. We can see all the problems that is having in Ukraine, and before that, Saudi Arabia. They are sending anti-ship missiles that have questionable utility. And what was the last thing? The drones, the Reaper drone, an unarmed version of the Reaper drone, which we've already seen fail again in and around Ukraine, in Syria. Now they're going to send these to Taiwan. So what is the purpose of sending weapons that have questionable utility or are proven incapable in a conflict against a peer or near peer competitor like Russia or China? What is the point of sending these type of weapons to Taiwan if it's not going to enhance their security? It's to provoke China. That is the purpose of all of this. It's to provoke China. It is to fuel an armed conflict that the U.S. can use to advance its own geopolitical agenda against China, which is to encircle, contain, divide, and destroy China, to eliminate it as a peer competitor.
Thanks for watching the video, and please consider liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing to the channel. Thank you very much.